My name is Thomas Heilmann. I do live in Berlin for the last 27 years. I've been a businessman, an entrepreneur for the last 27 years, and since 6 years I changed into politics. And I'm now a member of the Deutsche Bundestag. Für die CDU. Ja.
Stephanie?
Yeah. It's getting quieter.
Yeah, it's getting quiet. Sure.
Okay.
Who are you?
Okay, I do the marketing for BMW Germany.
Yeah.
And I'm kept busy at the moment by the German diesel Krise, like a crisis on the combustion engines, basically, and also by the profitability of the German dealerships and a couple of car launches. A lot of electrified cars as well.
Jan Gisbert?
Yeah, I'm the CEO of Klöckner & Co. Klöckner & Co. is one of the largest, globally one of the largest steel and metals distribution companies. So we have about 9,000 employees, 6.5 billion turnover, mainly in Europe and in the Americas.
Can you give us a short sentence, 2 sentences about how has digitalization affect your business? Thomas.
I've only been in the digital business for the last 15 years, but I also worked in justice and I worked in politics, and their digitalization doesn't happen, to be clear.
So you're a wanderer between worlds.
Yeah, somehow.
Okay.
I think it makes you more tired in a way, because you're always on, you get less precise in a way, and you keep on treating some of the things more superficially than they deserve. Apart from the good effects of gaining speed and being more rapid, I think that being tired or from being always on is also an aspect of digitalization.
Jan Gisbert?
Yeah, we started our digitalization efforts about 4 years ago. The target is finally to transform or disrupt our very pipeline-driven, so far very pipeline-driven, very inefficient supply chain in the steel industry from the producer to the customers, to disrupt, to transform this supply chain more into a network orchestrated by an open industry platform. And this is what we started about 4 years ago. We already established a couple of proprietary platforms out of these efforts, and we are currently in the process to launch this open industry platform. Open means that all participants in the industry, so also our competitors, can join this platform.
Good. I tell you now why I thought this kind of panel could be interested for you. As you know, DLD has a lot of to do with founders in the digital world. And I realized that some of the biggest founders, some of the founders of the largest and most successful companies in the digital field are friends. For example, Sergey Brin and Larry Page, Paul Allen and Bill Gates, the founders of Yahoo, the founders of YouTube. They were old friends when they founded these enormous successful companies. So I wondered, what has friendship to do with founding a company which becomes so successful? And I give you a quote, and I want to know whether you can underwrite it. I heard it from Elizabeth Blackburn. She's a biomolecular scientist, and she won the Nobel Prize in 2007. She said yesterday, the day before yesterday, working with friends increases work satisfaction and productivity. Those who can say, I have a best friend at work, usually describe their work day as more engaging and fun. Friends are more resilient to failure at work and also more empathetic. So how does that play a role in your work history or in your present position? The
We were friends, no?
discussion is open.
I mean, Thomas and me, we were friends. We're still friends. We work together in the same company. We were 12 friends owning a company. So that's basically the connection that we have. It worked well. It shortens your way of doing business a lot because you don't have to hide and you don't have to play games. So you're very efficient. I think working together with friends is a very efficient way to work. It's also a very successful way because you trust each other naturally.
So, but now you work in a corporate, like a big corporate,
That's
like
a different
BMW.
story. Yeah.
Is it a different story?
Yeah, I mean, I used to work in a medium-sized business before. In a big corporation, it's a different story because people need to separate themselves more than in a smaller company. But I still think that if you really want to be successful, you have to reach out and connect to people from other disciplines. For example, to engineers, software engineers, to people in the factories. And I think it's still a very easy tool. And I think empathy is also an important word here to be more efficient and more successful.
By the way, Stephanie was the one who gave me big support in this friendship idea. She said, "Oh, I'm so tired of doing this business presentation. Let's talk about friendship at this panel." Thank you for this. Would you underwrite this?
So friendship in a corporate is, to be honest, a difficult animal. No? So it's something different if you are a founded team, and typically a founded team, they all want the same as being in a corporate, because being in a corporate means on the one side, of course, you want to have success for the corporate, but on the other side, you also want to make a career, and so your colleagues in a corporate are also competitors, and this might be the reason why I have seen in my 35 years being in a corporate, and I'm a board member or part of or a board member of several companies, but since about 20 years I'm on boards, and I've never really seen friendship in the board. So I have some friends meanwhile after they or I left the company. But
my question would be
not when we've been together. So then.
But my question would be: don't you think that this is going to change? Are we in the midst of a process of changing? That the typical alpha male is maybe not what makes us successful in the future, but maybe it's more about networking and less about hierarchy.
But here again in the corporate, if you have friends, then this could also what we call in German Seilschaft. So I don't know, old boys network within the company. So this is also something what you don't want to have. No? You don't want to have, which a lot of this old corporates had or still have. You don't want to have this old boy networks within a company. And so a friend of mine, Kaspar Rosted, the CEO of Adidas, he's always saying, "Be friendly but not friends." And this is, in my experience, I'm not saying that this is good, but this is actually at least my experience so far. Can it be changed? It can. It might be able, and also with another generation now, it might change. But we in my generation, we have grown up differently. We have grown up in an atmosphere where we were more competitors, I would say, finally, than friends, because there's also only one CEO position in a company, unfortunately.
I think that's a very, very correct observation. If I look to my 4 children and how they be taught in school, teamwork is a key area that we taught from the very beginning. And in my school career, it hasn't been played a role significantly at all. To my mind, we don't not only have a digital divide in the society, we do have a cultural divide. I would say a third already of our of people who working in a friendly, modern, non-hierarchical atmosphere. And I include not only the digital area and the area of creativity, also the small family businesses are something like that. You know, people are going there, there are only 5 people, I know everybody, and that's all those kinds of problems do not appear. And it's definitely more productive as long as you're still professional. I mean, the danger of friendship is that you're not professional, that you take mistakes not as mistakes. Doesn't mean that you have to cry about it, but you have to say this is a mistake, we have to learn out of it. And if an organization stops learning and stop noticing mistakes, then it's really in danger. But I'm absolutely positive that one of the incumbent big businesses' problem compared to big American companies is that they have these cultural disadvantages, and they will have significant problems to attract talent, which is to any company, if you stop attracting talent, then it's a problem. Having worked now in politics, I can absolutely assure that I'm on the very back end of it. There's no friendship at all. There are alliances, but there's no friendships. And it's more competition in politics than it is in business, to my mind, including what I have on boards in big corporates, have seen in boards at big corporates. So we have a divide in culture, and that it is an advantage if you look and say, listen, we already have something new. But if I look to the two-thirds of the other half of our country, I would say we have problems in productivity and in attracting talent.
So how can we change this, Thomas?
Doing advertising, not posters, but I don't mind posters or movies or so, but talk about it and convince people. But I think it is a question of generation. So I agree with you. Klöckner in 25 years will either not exist or will have a different culture. And I mean, historically, culture has been created first in military. There it's coming from, and the state of Preußen copied the military structure in their administration, or in German Verwaltung, and that made the German Verwaltung being superior for some 100 years. But Verwaltung is not on the top anymore. I mean, you just have to look in Berlin. We are unable to build an airport. We are unable to get people applying for passports, etc.
And this was in the machine age 100 years ago. Now we are in the digital age, and data is a very unpersonal thing, and it's a very unhierarchical thing. And I think values like empathy, creativity, non-conformism are important. Stephanie, can you imagine, I spoke about male founders, Sergey and Larry, and can you imagine that there will be female founders successful? Do you know examples for this? Or is it a dull
I think
question?
we will have a couple of them on stage later on, a couple of very successful female fashion designers, right? I mean, that's also a proof, and those people are here today, but also like a very simple example, when I drive to work in the morning and I know at 8 o'clock I will have a meeting and I will have to step someone's back in order to get my project through, I don't enjoy it that much as compared to a situation as where I know I'm going into a team and we're going to have a creative session together, and at the end we'll be able to brief an agency to have a solution to a problem, etc., etc. It's just like I can do it, I know how to do it, also in a big corporation, but I don't enjoy it. And if too many of these situations come, I will not enjoy going to work because I don't enjoy stabbing people's back. So I think turning it around and trying to be more empathetic and trying to work more collaboratively, which is also the new zeitgeist, then it brings better results. That's just something I like better than the typical corporate way. But I'm also coming from a different culture. And of course, I think it's more successful.
You are working in a huge corporation. What's your personal approach to change culture in a more collaborative, more friendly, more way?
Well, everyone's talking about change, but I think change is a lot of work. Change doesn't come overnight, and change, especially in a big company, doesn't come overnight. Change needs, I don't know, I'm like a quote from Max Weber, but I don't know it in English, but you constantly need to nail the same point, and you have to repeat it all over again, otherwise people go back into their old habits. So if you want to change something, you have to dig down very deep in the shit you have to solve the problems with the people, and you have to make your team and other people around you understand why this point is so important to you. And it's a lot of work, it needs a lot of strength, and it needs a lot of repetition. Like in advertising, you need to repeat things in order for people to learn it and to follow you.
Gisbert, you have a great experience in changing your company. What are your learnings? How did you do it, and what are your learnings? And how?
First of all, I think change is really the most difficult issue in management. It's much more challenging. So I, for instance, in my career, I did a lot of restructurings, and also within Klöckner, by the way, we also restructured the company significantly during the last 10 years. But this is typically a clear process with a clear target, and change is much more difficult. I was also participating in a lot of change processes within the last 35 years, but most of them, to be honest, failed. Especially in large corporates, most of them failed. And what we doing different, and by the way, being successful in digitalization as a corporate only works with change, because you have to convince your people, and when you are not able to convince your people that this is the right way, and not only rationally, also emotionally, then you will not make it. For one example, where when you want to convince your people or the customer that the customer should, or that's a real benefit for the customer to use our new contract or online shops and things like that, to do business online with us. Then our salespeople have to convince the purchasing guy on the other side. But when they both fear to leave, that they will probably lose their job with digitalization, then nothing will happen. And so the whole company has to be transformed. But what we're doing this with small. We're always starting small projects. We have not started 4 years ago a big change process. We're always starting small projects, and then we spread them throughout the company. And this works, by the way, this works much better than everything I've seen before. And we have also established certain tools to help to change in a company. So, for instance, we have a hierarchy-free communication. Without this, I would also say today change is really difficult to manage. But with a hierarchy-free communication, and not only top-down, also horizontally, is absolutely necessary to drive this process, to explain also your people all the time what the targets are and what you want to achieve. And what the benefit is for them, because when they don't see any benefit, they will not drive the change.
Yeah. You created a lab here in Berlin. Why?
Yeah, we started 4 years ago. I came from the Silicon Valley 4 years ago and was enthusiastic to start now this digitalization. And then we first started this internally, but we gave it up after 3 months because we were not really able to also think about disruption, discuss disruption, and so on. And then we established what we call Klöckner.ai here in Berlin. Meanwhile, we employ here more than 60 digital natives out of 15 companies, and this is a big part of the digital transformation of Klöckner. But also here, that was also learning how to position such a hub. When the hub is too far away, the people are free here to work differently, but then nothing happens in the corporate itself. That's also what I've seen often, that big corporates have accelerators here and everything, but then nothing happens in the company. And when it's too close, okay, then you lose the startup spirit. So that was also a big learning, how to position this hub so that you can leverage on the one side the assets you have on the corporate side to drive the change, but don't lose the startup spirit, and with this the people you have here in Berlin.
Interesting. When I started this morning, I said to the audience, be courageous, engage, change. And I was very much impressed by you, Thomas. You've been founder of Scholz & Friends. Then you started, you're a great investor. You're one of the early investors in Facebook, for example, successful investor of Facebook and many more. But then all of a sudden you started to go in politics. You've been Senator for Justice, for Law here in Berlin, and now you are a Bundestagsabgeordneter, a member of the parliament. Why is it so? Do you want to give something back? Do you want to engage? Do you dare to be a politician to change something? And if so, how do you do this?
Yes, one of the aspects is I would like to give something back. I very much profit from the reunification in Germany. That was the basis for me becoming an entrepreneur relatively successfully. But the core is something different. The core is that I'm very interested how we have to set up a bunch of people in a society. That's why I studied law. That's why I'm an entrepreneur, because an entrepreneur can create a group. And how do we create a group who's more successful than the competitors? What does it make? Cultural is a very interesting thing. And when I was in the mid-40s, I had to think about whether I do now the 30th investment myself, or have someone else doing it, or can I bring my experience into public service? And I tried to culturally change slightly justice. I had some successes, but I had some failures too, where I didn't change the culture at all. To give you an example, I had more than 3,000 lawyers with predicats exam. What is it in English? So lawyers who have at least a certain level, 3,000 out of them. So they have been in their year being one of the 5% best. They're really hard to change, I can tell you. And but it's very interesting, and to my mind, I'm going into politics because if we do not change as Germany and as Europe, then in 50 years Germany won't be the same. I mean, there's a fight between China and America, and Europe doesn't take place, to be quite frank, if you look numbers and if you look results. And I try to influence from inside this change. That will take some years, but I mean, with my second day, so what can I say? Let's see how far I can come.
Let's wish him luck. Let's wish him Thomas luck.
Thank you. I need it.
Yeah, we all mean it. I think it's...
We don't have enough of these guys, I think.
Yes,
you are probably one of the only ones in there.
Yeah.
I'm simply the only one who come externally from the digital area and survived. You need any politician.
And this in the area of digitalization, so 1 out of 700.
Yeah.
So that's not good news, I would say, but
And I
at
wish
least one.
We should all more engage. We really should more engage and work for a better society, for a more innovative society, or for more innovative society, and for ourselves. We're part of the society. We have so much to achieve.
But then I also have a question. Yeah. Like in a digital and more complex world, what kind of teams do you think are better to produce or are able to produce superior results? Are these hierarchical teams or teams that work together in a network? And I think the answer is pretty clear, because the world is getting more complex. So even if I do something quite simple like a campaign, like an advertising campaign, I need like at least 15 different people on the table, because I'm not able to supervise all the complexity of this relatively simple topic. So I think in order to solve a more complex world, you need excellent specialists, but you also need to bring them together. So I think in the end, the best idea has to win that comes out of teams that work in a network or that work in a synergy.
There's a logical reason for it. The amount of knowledge is rising so dramatically.
Yes, exactly.
That it is completely unthinkable how a single group could manage that. So you have to have people in your organization you trust that they're going to manage this knowledge. And the knowledge is there, and it will raise, and everybody knows here in the room. I think I don't have to explain here.
We have 2 minutes left. Thomas, do you work with friends?
Yes. I've created a team of friends in my party. I have created a team, or I'm on my way to create a team in my office at the Deutsche Bundestag. And I have many, many friends supporting me in my work, specifically from the digital area, but I can always need more support in getting the right ideas, getting the right concepts, make PR for that concept. We need some change, and I try to be a change agent.
Thank you. Thank you. I think later contact Thomas. You should work for him, with him. I think this is the beginning. Steffi, do you work with friends?
Yes, a lot, even in a big corporation.
Good. And how does it work?
How do you find them? We just call each other and find a solution instead of bitching on each other and writing emails, CCing the board.
So far, I would say I work with colleagues, and we have a good relationship, but not really friends. But maybe that will change when I retire. Maybe then we can work together, and then this would be the first time for me that I would work with friends.
Who knows?
Shall we now wish that you retire soon?
I consider this discussion as a beginning. I think we all should start off reorganizing our mindsets towards working with friends, towards creativity, towards community building. I think next year we maybe have more to add to the more friends. That's important for DLD, as you know.
I will report how many enemies I have. And
yes,
how many
please. So thank you so much. It's a beginning.